let's have a look at the design process. So the design process, for a lot of you, it's something that you're learning in technology, you learn it off by heart, and it means absolutely nothing to you. But the design process is something that is quite important, and design thinking is a very important way to look at the world. So in any type of decision making, or making a plan, or designing something for anything, making clothes, building a house, being an architect, in so many different jobs, design thinking would help you so much. So the first thing we do is we need to investigate. We cannot do anything without investigating something first. Let's say, for example, we want to do a project where we build a school for someone. We go to a small rural community and we want to build them a school. We can't just waltz in there and build a school. We need to investigate first. We need to see what is available there. What do the people need? So before we can go design something, we first have to investigate. If you're making someone a dress, for example, you can't make someone a dress if you didn't investigate, if you didn't measure them and see what materials they need. What dress do they need? Do they need a long dress? Do they need something for winter or for summer or something for formal outing? It all makes a big difference in what type of dress you're going to make. So the investigate is getting facts to find out what the need is. Because if you don't find out what the need is first, then making something, building something, making a design is completely useless, because you're not going to fulfill the need of whoever you're designing something for. Okay, step 2, design. Now you actually go draw pictures, you look at, you may basically draw up a plan of what you're going to do. Let's say you draw up a plan. Okay, so for example, house plans, or a pattern in sewing, or in drawing, making a mural, for example, you first do the outlines. So it's basically design, which is part of planning what you are going to do. Now, the next step is making it. So we need to create the thing that we were going to create in the first place. So we sew the dress, we cut the material, and we put it all together. We draw the painting, the mural. We make a house. Whatever kind of process we want, what we wanted to do, now we're creating it. But we're not done yet. We first have to evaluate. We have to see, is this good? You don't want to make something for a client and then it turns out it's not what they wanted. So you say, is this good? Does it fulfill the need? Because there's no point in making something if it doesn't fulfill the need that was there in the first place. Like, let's say we had the school. So if we build a school and then find out we made a high school and they actually needed a primary school, then we need to go back to the drawing board. We need to go back to the investigation and find out, oops, what did they actually need? Then we draw up a plan for the school. Who's going to do what, when to make this happen? And then we make the school, we create it, we build it, we get teachers. And then we need to evaluate, is this good? Does it fulfill the need? If yes, if it does, then we move on to the next step. If it doesn't, then we start all over again and go back to investigation. So if we've passed this evaluation stage and we went, all right, this is good. It fulfills the need. It is doing what it was supposed to do. Now we have to communicate. So the next step is to communicate what we have done. So we tell people, this is what we have done. This is why we have done it. So the communication is literally talking about what you have done. Okay, so that is the design process, and it's not just something that is stuck just with technology. In all big businesses, design thinking is very important in decision making and implementing any kind of plan. Anything that you want to create must go through a design process. So the next bit that you need to learn is safety precautions. First thing we're looking at, paraffin. In South Africa, lots of people use paraffin to power their households, basically. So for light and warmth and things like that, they use paraffin. So this is why we're looking at the uses of the precautions when you use paraffin. So first of all, don't store it with food. Basically, this paraffin is poisonous. So think about any way that you deal with poison is the same way that you deal with paraffin. So you don't want it close to your food because otherwise you're going to get sick from it. You don't want kids to get a hold of it because, you know, kids, they play with it, throw it over things. They are not cautious with it, so they might hurt themselves. You want to keep it closed properly because we don't want it to spill and contaminate other things. Now, when you're using the paraffin, you want a well-ventilated area. Basically, you don't want to get poisoned by the fumes. So the fumes need somewhere to escape. So we wanted a well-ventilated area. Then the paraffin is also flammable. So we must keep it away from flames. That's safety precautions when we use paraffin. Now, what accidents happen all the time? The question is, why do accidents happen? What is the cause of accidents happening? And there's basically only three. The first is unsafe behavior. Okay, so for example, you don't use the safety precautions with a paraffin. You use it in a very poorly ventilated area and you get poisoned. It's an accident and it's because you were unsafe yourself. The other cause of accidents is mechanical failure. So for example, if we've got a machine that we didn't design properly, go back to the design process, we evaluate process didn't work well, and now the machine fails. Okay, so that's the mechanism that fails. Or we have an electrical failure. So if we have electrics and there's an electrical failure, then it doesn't work. Let's have a look at a car, for example. We can drive very unsafely and we can cause an accident. We can have a mechanical failure. The brakes fail. We can't drive properly. We get into an accident. We can have an electronic failure where the battery cuts out and we cannot drive because there is an electrical fault. The next thing we're looking at is gas. So many people use gas in their homes for geysers, ovens, lamps. We can use gas for anything basically instead of electricity. There are many houses that uses municipal gas. There's a big gas factory in Braamfontein that supplies gas to Johannesburg, where instead of having electricity or along with electricity, you use gas. We're also using gas a lot with load shedding, of course. I'm sure you, very many of you have gas stoves and things at home, or gas lamps for when the power goes out. So what happens if gas leaks? So gas is a poison. So just like paraffin, gas can poison you. But gas is also explosive. So if you put a fire to it and there's too much gas, then it explodes. And that can lead to a fire. Alright, so that is three things that can be caused by gas leaks. You can get poisoned, we can have an explosion, or we can have fire. Okay, so what do you do if you smell gas? So you come into your house and you go, ooh, I smell gas. That is a warning sign something is, there's gas leaking somewhere, and you can get poisoned. There could be an explosion or a fire. So now what do you do to prevent that? So first of all, you close off the gas valves. So you check the gas valves to make sure that it's not leaking, to find out where it's leaking. You close the cylinder. So you make sure that the cylinder is closed, that gas is not leaking out. You have to open the windows and the doors to get fresh air so that you don't get poisoned. And do not, under any circumstances, light a match. Because we said fire, explosions, do not light a match. Right, those are the things that is important for revision for term 1. This and the previous videos. So you can study that for your test.